1.7 million. Have you heard that number recently? 1.7 million. That's the number of people who lost their jobs in the month of February. That is not a headline. That is not a trend piece. The United States Department of Labor told us that in February alone, 1.7 million people lost their jobs. On top of that, total layoffs and discharges for this year alone have been 3.3 million so far. And these are from companies that we all know: Oracle, Amazon, Microsoft, UPS. Some of these companies sent out termination notices at 6 o'clock the morning of. No warning, no conversation, no call from HR, just an email telling someone who had given 20, 25 years, 26 years to an organization that today was in fact their last day. And here is the piece of it all that should stop every single leader who's listening to this. These are not struggling companies. Some of them reported record profits the same quarter they eliminated tens of thousands of roles. This is not desperation. This is direction. These organizations are not cutting to survive. They are making strategic cuts to free up resources for future investments into technology and AI. Now, you might be asking, okay, how is this relevant to me on a leadership podcast? Well, it's relevant because many of these cuts were explicitly described as not performance-based. So senior engineers, directors, program managers, even people who had been recently promoted, people who had given decades to their organization, gone. And for you, the listener, you may be personally affected by this, or you know someone who's affected by this. I know someone who lost their job, a brilliant individual who spent years inside a large organization, delivering, performing, climbing. They were exactly the kind of person every organization hopes to keep. And then one day, their role was gone. Not because they underperformed, not because they made a bad decision, not because of anything they did or didn't do. The organization just restructured, and the role was eliminated. So the most important question we must ask ourselves today is, if performance does not protect you, what does? And when I say protection, let me be very clear, because protection is not about job safety. It's not about surviving the latest round of layoffs. Real protection is about something bigger than that. It's about having the ability to move and to transition seamlessly, no matter what the market does, no matter what the organization decides. And here's what gives you that ability, that level of protection. It's not your skill. Every organization has skilled people. Skills get commoditized. It's not your education. Yes, degrees can open doors, but they do not keep them open. It's not even your work experience. 20 plus years of experience means nothing if the only people who know about it work in the same building as you do. It's not even in your network nowadays. If your network is based on the number of colleagues who know your title, but not the number of people who know your thinking. The one thing that protects you when the market is disrupted and jobs are being eliminated, the one thing is your brand. Your brand is your reputation, both within and beyond the walls of your organization. Your brand is your name being attached to a clear, specific, consistent answer to one question. What does this person uniquely bring to the world that no one else can? That's your brand. And that is what moves with you. That is what actually protects you. That is what survives every restructure. And that is what makes the phone ring before you need it to. And most senior leaders have never taken the time to build their brand beyond the walls of the organization. Now, I know there's someone who's listening to this and saying, well, I hear you, Seth, but I'm a high performer and I have tons of reassurance that my job is secure. And I hope that is the case. I pray that is the case for you. But I want to let you know that performance is what you do for your organization. Your brand is what you contribute to your industry and to the world, to the field, to the people who have never met you but know exactly who you are and what you stand for. You may be a high-performing chief nurse executive, but your brand is how you contribute to the conversation across the healthcare industry amongst CNEs. You might be a high-performing VP of operations at a university, but your brand is the voice that you bring to the broader conversation about how higher education actually gets run. You might be a high-performing executive director at a nonprofit, but your brand is what other nonprofit leaders think of when someone says, who do you trust in this space? You see, you might be a high-performing chief medical officer, but your brand is the perspective you bring to the national conversation about where healthcare is going. Performance will get you evaluated when it's time for your annual review, but your brand gets you called before the role is ever posted. See, for most of us, we have built our brand within the organization. Our title lives within the organization. Your access lives inside the organization. Your salary, your team, your influence. For most of us, we have built all of our lives and put all of our eggs inside the organization bucket. But your brand, which is your real contribution to the world, that belongs outside of the organization. And the problem is that most senior leaders have never built it there. And respectfully, this is how it happens. And I want you to hear me without judgment because it happens to people that I know and we have so much respect for. For most of us, we approach our work realizing that we are rewarded for commitment. We're rewarded for full investment, full identification with the role, the mission, the organization. And we look around and every great leader that we have ever studied poured themselves completely into the work. And so you and I, we did the same thing and it worked. It got you promoted. It got you to the C-suite. It got you to the senior level. It got you the title. But somewhere in that process, quietly, gradually, without anyone announcing it, your identity and the organization became the same thing. You stopped existing outside of the organization, not because you were weak, but because you were exactly the kind of leader the organization needed you to be, fully committed. But the organization's need for you to be fully inside it was never the same as your need to know who you are outside of it. And I'm not making an argument against organizational commitment. No, I actually study organizational commitment and organizational engagement for a career. That's what I spend my life doing. So yes, we want to be fully committed. But what I want you to understand is that your greatest contribution to the organization is not just what you do for them. It is who you are becoming beyond them. Because a leader who is building their brand and growing their reputation and expanding their contribution to their industry, that leader brings more back into the building than one who never looked outside of it. And you won't know that matters until the morning it does. So what I want to walk you through is a simple framework of 4 zones that I believe will really help you understand what this brand building is all about. Think about your work in terms of 2 things. The first is value, not how much you earn, but the contribution you make to the world, the kind that can bring increased value back to you as it grows. So every day you are adding value to the world, and the value that you add to the world is then adding monetary value back to you. The second thing I want you to think about is vitality, the value of energy and joy you actually experience in the work. Those are the 2 dimensions that create 4 zones. So if you're listening to me, you would think about like a 2x2, right? A square that's divided into 4 sections. Horizontal axis, you would put value. On the vertical axis, you would put vitality. Now, let me just remind you again, value is the contribution you make to the world that the world then pays you for. It's your value. On the vertical axis, we have what we call vitality, and this is the level of energy and joy you experience when you work. So in light of value and vitality, what I want you to picture is 4 zones. The bottom left zone, that's where we have low value and low vitality. You're showing up to your job, you're going through the motions, you're doing what's required, and nothing more. Most people start here. Great leaders don't stay here long. This is just a regular job. It could be an office job, a restaurant job, a frontline staff job, something that didn't require a lot of maybe school, something that didn't require a lot of education. You just got a job. All of us have been there. My first job was bagging groceries. I also had a job making chicken at a restaurant. I also had a job at a video store. It was just a job. Low value, they didn't pay me much, and low vitality. I didn't get much joy or energy from it. That's the bottom left. The top left category is what we call the hobby zone. And this is where you have high vitality, but low value contribution. You love what you do. It fills you up, but it's not creating any significant value to the world. This is the zone of passion without purpose. I love playing golf. That would be a hobby. I get a lot of joy from it, but I'm not adding any value to the world. So therefore the world's not paying me to play golf. That's the top left category. The bottom right category is where we have high value and we have low vitality, where you are delivering, you're performing. By every external measure, you are succeeding, but the joy and energy that used to come with the work, they have quietly gone missing. This, for most of us, is what we call the career zone. So far we have three zones. You have a job zone, which is low value, low vitality. You have hobby zone, which is high vitality, low value. You have a career zone where you've been working, you got your master's, your doctorate degree, you've been working in a field, you're a healthcare provider, you're a lawyer, you're in your career, they're paying you good money to be in that career, but maybe it's not adding a lot of vitality to you. You don't get energized or excited about your work. You're producing, but you're not really alive in the way that you used to be. Most leaders listening right now, you're in the career zone. And there's nothing wrong with being in the career zone. But I just want to tell you, the 1.7 million jobs that were just eliminated were in the job zone and the career zone. People who had made their career in a field, had worked their way up the ladder, now they're looking for employment. There is a fourth zone. So let me just recap to make sure you're with me. You have your job zone, your hobby zone, your career zone. In the top right quadrant, you have high vitality and high value. This is what we call the vocation zone. This is where your contribution to the world and the energy and joy in your work are operating at the same level. This is not a fantasy zone. This is the destination zone. And the path to the vocation zone runs directly through one thing: clarity about what you uniquely bring, not to your organization, but to the world. People who are in their vocation, they might say, yes, I still work in this organization, but I recognize my contribution is to the world. It is to the industry. My contribution and my reason for being is much broader than just this organization. This organization might pay me for now, but it's not going to pay me forever. And so I am contributing to a broader conversation in the world, and I'm meeting people who work in different industries. I'm engaging people who work in different organizations. I am energized. I'm alive. I love what I do because I'm actually taking my skills, using them in the organization, but also contributing to a broader conversation outside the organization. Now, let me be very clear. The leaders in the career zone are not failing. They are contributing enormously, and their organizations need them desperately. But most of those individuals have made a quiet trade they never consciously agreed to. They traded vitality for value, joy for performance, identity for title. And when the title disappears, as it just did for 1.7 million people in February, they're left holding the performance without the identity. The person I know did not lose their contribution when they lost their job. They lost access to the building where they had been keeping it. So this is what we do. And I want to be very clear. The move is not to leave your organization. The move is to stop leaving your contribution only inside your organization. So here's what I want you to do. And this is not a LinkedIn task. It is an identity question. I want you to sit alone for 30 minutes, no phone, no agenda. And I want you to answer this question. If my organization disappeared tomorrow, what would remain that is entirely, undeniably, and irreplaceably mine? Not your title, not your access, not your team, but your voice, your contribution, your brand. What have you learned that no one can take from you? What do you see about people and organizations and leadership that you have earned the hard way? What would the world lose if you stopped sharing it? And whatever that is, I want you to write it down in one sentence if you can. Then share it. One post, your name on it, your insight on it, not about the company, but about what you know. You see, your contribution to the world is not a product of your organization. Your organization has been the beneficiary of it. And it's time to start building it somewhere the world can see it. So this week, take 30 minutes, spend some time in silence and solitude, answer that question, and then post about it online and tag me in the comments. I would love to hear what your unique contribution to the world is. I want to thank you again for listening to this episode. If this has added value to you, I would love for you to share it with your friends, your family, your coworkers. And if you have some time, please rate it and leave a review. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.